Salaam Alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are
Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu rasulullah, or ba'd, in the name of Allah, and the peace and blessings of Allah be upon his last and final messenger. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hatettes, welcome back to the Feachaz. I greet you all in peace and love with no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So before we begin, please like, please subscribe, and please share. As you know, we got a lot of haters up in here. And we got a double feature today, a double live today, right? So we went live this morning. We're going live this evening. And this particular topic, I'm doing this topic because I have seen recently popular Pan-Africanists from Africa essentially say that, you know, the situation with the Pharaoh and Moses and whatnot, and how these people were brought into a strange land, was not they're speaking a strange language. That is a prophecy. And this is something that the Hebrew Israelites, of course, they've been pushing for the better part of 100 years or so. Like, I want to say 100 years. I'm not sure if exactly they started with this in the beginning, but we know that this is what they heavily push now. That the narrative between Yusuf, or Joseph, alayhi peace be upon him, and Moses, not Joseph, sorry. Joseph, you can say Joseph and Moses and whatnot. You can actually say that. This is actually a prophecy. And we just want to we want to do a clarification, inshallah, because this is obviously, it's widespread amongst the black community, and it's been widespread amongst the black community for a long time, but it is going international now, okay? And we want to start by saying that these are actually historical events, that what happened with the tribes of Israel actually happened in the past. They happened in the past. So despite their similarity between the path and the history of black folk, which is incredibly, uncannily similar. It is absolutely similar, no doubt. It is not a prophecy. And there are many lessons to be learned by Allah preserving these particular stories. Right? As we know, the tribes of Israel were enslaved by Pharaoh. And they were enslaved in bondage by Pharaoh for 400 years, or the pharaohs of Egypt for 400 years, by the Egyptians. Okay, 400 solid years they were enslaved. Like black folk, again, were enslaved for 400 years. Okay, and the tribes of Israel were in a strange land which was not there, speaking a strange language. Like black folks from Africa, the same, exactly the same. So what is being extracted from this is that these are actually prophecies. But we have to take a dive. We have to look into these actual stories to see whether or not they are prophecies. Okay? So what we understand, first of all, if you look at the 12 tribes of Israel, to understand who the 12 tribes of Israel are, you have to go back to the story of Yusuf and Jacob. You have to go back to that to understand where these Israelites, they actually come from. Are they the children of kidnapped Africans, or are they some other group of people? Right, let's look at that first, okay? So, the 12 tribes of Israel, Jacob, or Yaqub in the Quran, or the Arabic name Yaqub, and I believe it's the same for the Hebrews, well, I'm not quite sure, but Jacob was later called Israel. Okay, that's where you get the name Beni Israel, or the tribes of Israel. Okay, or the sons of Israel. Okay, so he had 12 sons. Okay, Jacob had 12 sons, and from these sons was Joseph. Okay. Now, why is this important? What does it have to do with Egypt? We're getting to that. Okay. Joseph was Jacob's favorite son. And one day, when Joseph was a child, he had a dream. And he had a dream that the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to him, to Joseph. That was his dream. Okay? So don't worry, we're going to tie this all in. Okay? So now Joseph had this dream, and he tells his father, Jacob, and Jacob happens to be the grandfather of Abraham. Okay? Either the grandfather or the great-grandfather, one of the two. Right? I can't remember which one, but we can research that afterwards. But the point is that he tells his father, and his father says, make sure that you do not tell your brothers, because we don't want them to do anything to you, right? Your brothers will be jealous because, Jacob, he's favoring Joseph, okay? So, but Joseph, he's a young boy, and he can't help himself. He's so excited. He thinks that his brothers are going to have the same type of excitement for him that he has. He doesn't understand what jealousy is. He's very naive, right? He's young. And he tells his brothers, and his brothers come up with this plot to get rid of Jacob. Now they don't want to kill him. That would be too obvious, right? But they want to get rid of him, right? Because they know. And mind you, at this point, Jacob he's known for his righteousness and whatnot. So they come up with this plot. They throw Joseph in a well, as the story goes, and they cover one of Joseph's shirts in blood and say a wolf ate him. And they brought this shirt up to Jacob, and they basically told him the story. A wolf ate Joseph. Jacob's like, he don't believe them. He's like, stop the cap, right? Modern translation, okay? Modern biblical translation, okay? Okay? Jacob is like...
Stop the cap.
Right? And he don't believe them, but he's basically hoping that, Allah will expose the plot. So we're fast-tracking through the story because we have to make this point here, okay? So Joseph now, he gets picked up by some travelers, right, and sold into slavery, okay, to the Egyptians, okay? He gets picked up by some travelers, sold into slavery. Long story short, he ends up imprisoned, and the king of Egypt at that time keeps getting a reoccurring dream. Okay? This is the point where we want to make. The king of Egypt at this time keeps getting a reoccurring dream. So we understand this, that Jacob and his sons are a different people from the Egyptians, correct? They are not the same people. Joseph ends up in Egypt, imprisoned in Egypt. And the king of Egypt at that time gets a recurring dream. And he hears about this man who can interpret dreams. Well, he didn't hear about it. Rather, one of the prisoners who was being freed told Joseph about this reoccurring dream that the king is having. right? And Joseph at that time, he interpreted the dream, okay? Or he interpreted the dream, and he asked. No, hold on. I'm messing up the story. Let me backtrack here, okay? Let me backtrack here. I'm going to fast forward a little bit because there's too much to tell, right? So we're going to go straight to Joseph and the king and the dream, right? Joseph is out of prison now, okay? Sorry. Joseph is out of prison now. And he's brought before the king to interpret this reoccurring dream that he keeps having. He's having this dream over and over and over again. Okay? And the dream is, and he's telling Joseph this, my dream is I see 7 cows. This is the short version, okay? I see 7 cows, and they're fat cows. And then very lean, emaciated cows show up. Seven lean, skinny, emaciated cows show up, and they devour these fat cows, these 7 fat cows. So Joseph now, he interprets the dream. He says that you're going to have 7 years of plenty, okay? Your harvest will be fat. And after that 7 years of plenty, you're going to have 7 years of drought and famine. So when the king heard this dream, what did he do? He stored up his stores of grain and food and whatnot for that 7 years of plenty. He was planning for the 7 years of drought. Y'all hearing me? This is important. Why? Why is it important, Bilal? Why are you telling us all this? What does this have to do with Hebrew Israelites and some prophecy? We get into that. Okay? So Joseph now is put in charge. He's being made like a very high minister in the king's court. And he's in charge of gathering the stores of the food for the 7 years. He does so. Question, family. The Egyptians, have they met like en masse, like a true, like, or just in passing, the children of Israel yet? Mind you, children of Israel, who are they? They're the sons of Jacob, right? They don't even exist at this time, right? Except for the 12 sons of Jacob, right? So have they met all the sons of Jacob yet? At this point, the answer is no. Is that land the same land as Jacob and his sons? The answer is no. It is not. Okay? So now, here comes Joseph. He's planning and whatnot, and we're speeding through this. And after the 7 years of plenty, the drought comes. And this king is the only king that has prepared for this drought. And by nature, what ends up happening is that all the tribes around this Egyptian king, what are they doing? They're going where? They're going to Egypt. Is Egypt their land? No. Do Egyptians speak their language? No. Okay? They do not. That's how the Beni Israel, the sons of Israel, ended up in Egypt to begin with. Y'all hearing me? It was from that event. So these 12 sons of Israel or Jacob, they are the fathers of the 12 tribes of Israel. And this event that is mentioned both in the Bible and the Quran is how the Israelites ended up in Egypt to begin with. Y'all hearing me? Are you seeing where I'm going with this? Fast forward now. This event which empowered this Egyptian king and gave power to the Egyptians in general and made them essentially a superpower, this particular event, because of their planning ahead of a drought. Some centuries down the line, the same folks who were blessed by the sons of Israel turned around and enslaved the very people that they were blessed by. Y'all hearing me? And then here comes Pharaoh, what we know as Pharaoh, mentioned both in the Bible and the Quran. And Pharaoh, he also has a dream, okay? He has a dream that he will be destroyed by one of the sons of Israel. And he orders the firstborns of these sons to be murdered, right? As mentioned in the Bible, he says, let us deal justly with them, lest they populate and overpower us. So the question is, if this is a prophecy, where are the kidnappings occurring? Where is even the racism occurring? Where is the, whatchamacallit, the mass destruction of an entire society occurring? Between this event that is a historical event, yes, it has similarities, but it has very clear-cut differences. Clear-cut differences. And what is important is to learn from the stories themselves, from the benefits of the story of Yusuf or Joseph, is that he was incredibly disciplined, very disciplined, and very patient. And he was a very handsome man, so much so that he pretty much could have the pick of any woman that he wanted, because he was that good looking. And he chose fear of Allah and sexual discipline over, sinning. And he even prayed to God himself to strengthen him in this matter. Y'all hearing me? What we have in the black community is the opposite of that. We have the opposite of sexual discipline. What we have going on in the black community is sexual perversion, not discipline. And if there's any lesson that we can take from the story of the 12 tribes of Israel, particularly the story of Joseph, it's that lesson right there. That is way more important than some nostalgic idea of a prophecy pertaining to black folk, which really is not a prophecy. It's an actual historical event that we should be taking lessons from if we want to benefit ourselves, because we are in a very similar situation right now. From the lessons of the story of Joseph is the importance of planning ahead, planning for the future. doing things in a methodical manner, and being patient with the method. Can you imagine now storing your stores for 5 years, or 7 years rather, and then because you that simple action and being patient with that action, Allah opened up the earth for him. And when you look at the story of Musa, alayhi salam, Moses, and Pharaoh, what we see is Moses going directly to Pharaoh and telling him with good words and good manners to worship the one true God and to let his people go. So if this is a prophecy, right, as these folks claim, the messaging that we should be telling our oppressor is to fear God, to fear Allah. And we should be telling them that message regardless. Incidentally, what we have is a situation where if you have enough, if you say, a certain narrative a certain amount of times, people will just start repeating it. And in the age of social media, it is simple for people to indulge in storytelling, and simple-minded folks to just succumb and yield to whatever stories that they hear in terms of being accepted ideologically. And this is just one of those situations. Ideologically, it sounds good. It makes black folk sound good, and this is a prophecy and blah blah blah, right? But it is clearly not a prophecy. It's very obviously not a prophecy, and it is just a situation where history is repeating itself. And to relinquish the truth on this matter is to keep black folk in a perpetual state of compliance, you could say, to the very white supremacists that we're supposed to escape. Because when your worldview should always be objective. It should always be objective. And you should always be able to coherently and lucidly explain your worldview in a manner that is in line with the facts at hand. So I just wanted to touch up on that, because I know a lot of people are pushing this type of thing that, this is a prophecy, But when you break down the story of Yusuf and the story of Moses to its bare essentials, you'll see very clearly, no, it's not a prophecy. It's an actual historical event. And the historical event that happened at that time is distinct in several manners. First of all, the foreign land, speaking of foreign language, the tribes of Israel ended up like in that situation because of certain events that caused them to migrate from their situation into a better one. Like what we have with Africans today trying to migrate from Africa into the States or in Canada, and they get thrown out in the streets. Their situation would be actually more similar, or very similar as well, including to the story of Yusuf, as our situation, the children of slavery, is similar to the story of Moses. You understand? Because they are forced out of their lands by the very same, demons that plunder their countries to begin with. They're forced out of their lands, and they end up in the lands of the enemy. And the enemy, right now, as we speak, in Toronto, for the first time in history, you have refugees in the streets. For the first time in history, Joe Biden had one meeting with Justin Trudeau. Not even a few months later, just a large number of black African refugees and whatnot are in the streets in Toronto. Not even a whole few months, not even a year later. You understand? So these are not prophecies. However, they are lessons so that we can learn in order to better our situation. And I will leave you guys with that. Subhanakallah, Assalamu Alaikum. I will check you guys later.